Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of my road trip video of the Central Highlands of Vietnam. If you watched part 1, thanks for watching, and if you haven't, here's the link. You can find it to watch part 1 before you watch part 2. You'll notice that the format for this one's completely different. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my experience more than what fits in the captions down here. So according to Google, we traveled just over 41 hours. It was 1,257 miles, which is just over 2,000 kilometers. We traveled over 15 days, starting in Thủ Dầu Một, where we live, up to Đà Nẵng. And we took the mountains on our way up and traveled back down through the coast. We left off in Mang Dun, and we traveled from Mang Dun to Đà Nẵng. That trip was one of our longest. It was 5.5 hours straight of riding and 168 miles. The first couple hours out of Mang Dun was some of the most remote countryside we'd seen so far. There were a couple of tiny villages, but it was very just unpopulated. We saw water buffalo, we saw goats, we saw the mountains, of course. We saw these beautiful rice paddies. And eventually the road flattened out, and we went down this long, sort of surreal area of like kind of scrubby grassland with like sand. There were interspersed all of these burial plots, and it was really interesting because it would just seem there were random tombs everywhere, and very few actual cemeteries. It would just be like you'd ride and then you'd see like some random tomb, and then you'd ride some more and there'd be another one. So that was really interesting, and I think it's a very common thing in Tet to sort of like visit graves. So there were a lot of people on the highway just like stopping and like getting off randomly and like visiting their ancestors. Finally, we hit the South China Sea, and then we traveled up kind of along the coast to Đà Nẵng. By that time, we'd traveled 656 miles in just 6 days, and we were ready for some cocktails. After being in several small towns and not a wealth of cosmopolitan places, we kind of went overboard and went to 3 different cocktail bars. Our first morning in Đà Nẵng happened to be Super Bowl Sunday. So it was actually Monday morning in Vietnam, and we went to this little place popular with expats and went to like a Super Bowl viewing party. Now, neither of us follows the Super Bowl. I think I found out at the party who was playing, and I have since forgotten. The only thing I remember is some old guy is a quarterback, and everyone was talking about that guy, and I think his team won, but don't ask me. So we were invited by our friends who we met in the Ha Long Bay when we were there. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link up above. We were in Ha Long Bay not long ago, and we met this couple, and they had invited us back to visit. On day 2 in Đà Nẵng, it was raining, so we just kind of sat in our hotel cafe and read some books and relaxed. Our room was really cute. We stayed at a place called the Seahorse Office and Hotel. They had like offices on some floors and hotel rooms on the others. And our room was really cute. It was only like $20 a night. And I think because of, again, COVID prices, everything's really cheap, so it's really nice. Đà Nẵng is a really livable city. It's got great restaurants and bars. It's got a beach. It's very cosmopolitan. We really liked it here. And I think I was just enjoying myself so much I barely took any video. Our last meal in Đà Nẵng was at a place called Le Comptoir, and it was excellent. It was like a world-class restaurant. The food was good, the service was excellent. Unfortunately, all I took was this video of a little bit of our dessert. It's kind of uncommon to find a really high service restaurant in Vietnam. It's just different culturally. Service isn't like, at the forefront. It was a short trip to our next stop. We did pass by what looked like maybe fish farms, and it had all these cute little ducks. The Coco Land Resort was a big, beautiful resort, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and because of COVID, it was totally empty. We basically spent a bunch of hours sitting here at the pool, reading, relaxing. The next leg of our journey turned almost desert-like, despite the fact that the sea was always next to where we were riding. We saw windmills and solar farms, and it just showed how much Vietnam is becoming more in the 21st century. It's cool. So Qui Nhơn is a small beach town, and it attracts lots of Western backpackers type kids. It was really cute. Our room was at this little hotel that reminded me of our room in Mang Dan. In Mang Dan, we were looking through a window onto a forest, just like our bed fit into a little window that looked out into a forest. And in Qui Nhơn, it was the same thing, except it looked out over the top of a little seaside village. Hey everyone, it's Editing Brian here. I just realized that so first of all, I filmed this video twice, the talkie parts, and I realized the second time I recorded it, I forgot this little anecdote. So I'm gonna have like a costume change, and I'm sitting in a different place, and right here. So that's what this is. So we were in Khánh Hòa next, which is a really kind of up-and-coming beach city near Nha Trang. And they're both known for having a lot of Russian expats and tourists. So a lot of the signage is in Russian. It's a pretty nice town. We only stayed one night. And it was, a lot of stuff was closed because it's Tet, but we did go to this cute little place called Rainforest Cafe, which is not the same as the American one, but it was cute. And our room was really nice. When we arrived to our hotel here, the guy at the front desk was like, we have a rooftop pool bar, and here you can have 2 free drinks. So just go up to the pool bar and you'll get a welcome drink. So we go up there, and there's a little pool, and there's like a bar, but it's not set up. Like there's like nothing in it. And there's like this woman sitting in like a water chair inside the pool, and there's a guy sitting talking to her next to it. And so we're standing there, and we're just looking around. We're like, this is not, maybe we have to go get our drink downstairs or something. And then this other foreigner couple comes up, and I think they're from South Africa maybe. And we start talking to them, and we're like, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a bar. And then the guy who was sitting talking to the woman finally gets up, and he's like, oh, you're here, can I help you? And we're like, oh, you work here. So we give him the little coupons, and he starts making a drink. And there's like a cooler under the bar, and it has just the ingredients to make this one drink. So he makes these drinks out of like, I don't know, it had like some sweet liqueur and maybe vodka and maybe juice, and he makes them in actual little shot glasses, and he puts like maraschino cherries in them, and like he's like, here you go. And so we just drink this drink, and we're like, what was the point of that? Like, usually when you're offered a free drink at the bar, it's to draw you in, so you hang out at the bar and have more drinks and spend some money, but there was nothing else to buy, so it was just very weird. But That's Vietnamese hospitality for you, I guess. You know, there are so many things that we take for granted in the US when you're going on a road trip. For example, gas stations don't have convenience stores, they're just gas. Fast food restaurants aren't ubiquitous, you know, like if you see a fast food restaurant, it's usually in a city. It's like, there aren't like ones just on the side of the road. They do have like street food, but it tends to be really processed, which I guess is pretty common, but it's just, it's not appealing. There aren't really expressways in Vietnam either. It's like you have roads that have maybe 2 to 3 lanes. Well, 1 to 2 lanes mostly. Sometimes they go to 3, but usually in places where it's not even necessary. All the roads that go across the country, they go through the middle of town. So you could be driving really fast and then suddenly you have to slow down because you're in the middle of town, and then it picks up again. And sometimes a busy road turns into a little road, turns into a dirt road, and then back again. The next day we rode to Cam Ranh. Cam Ranh again is kind of remote. We stayed at this little hotel. The hotel that we were recommended by our friends in Da Nang happened to be sold out. So we stayed next door at a place that was a bit more expensive. And it was actually one of the most expensive places we stayed. It was nice, it was on the beach. The rooms were nice, but the service was crazy. The restaurant had maybe 50% of its menu. And every time we asked for something on the menu that they didn't have, the waitress was just like, no. Like, no apology, no offer of something different. It was just like, no. So yeah, it was really weird. Later, we were playing Scrabble and we overheard another couple trying to order food, and they were just like almost laughing because they didn't have anything. So we talked to them and just kind of commiserated, surprised by how strange the service was. It was interesting because later that night, Jeff and I were both like, oh, we should have talked to those people more, and we should have like gotten their information. They told us they lived in Ho Chi Minh, which is close to where we live. And, you know, we were just like saying how awkward it is to try and make friends as adults, like, you know. But the next morning when we were getting ready to leave, we were like packing up our bikes, and they were packing up just at the same time. So almost simultaneously, like, hey, we should get each other's information. So that was nice because they were thinking the same thing, obviously. So we got their information, wished them luck, and we forgot to ask where they were going next. After we left Cam Ranh, we had our third bike problem. We were kind of in the middle of nowhere. Jeff was in front of me, and we were going pretty fast. And it suddenly started to feel like my bike was losing control. Like the back tire was moving sort of like to the side while my front tire was going straight. And it really freaked me out. So I like thought I was losing control. I like slowed down as like naturally as I could. And once I started going slower, it felt a little better. Then I like got off the bike and I couldn't tell what was wrong, and I like wiggled the back wheel and it seemed like it was like totally in place. So I texted Jeff and I said, I don't know what's going on with my bike, but it feels really weird. And then I tested it again, and as soon as I started going a little bit fast, it felt really wobbly and weird. So I now sitting on it, I could tell that the tire was becoming flat. So Jeff drove back to me like what seemed like a really long time later, and fortunately we had like a pump with us, so we pumped up the tire, and I like handed Jeff the pump and like drove as far as I could until it felt like I was losing control again, and then he caught up to me, and then we pump it again. We did that over and over again for like an hour or something like that, because we were like in the middle of nowhere. There were no villages, and finally so something to know about Vietnam is like motorbike repair shops are as ubiquitous as Walgreens in Chicago. Like there's one like on every corner. And but you have to actually be in a town to get to one, and usually there's more than one. But yeah, so you don't, I mean, like, we just knew that if we kept driving, we'd find one. But because it was like Tet, there were, like, we'd pull up and they'd be like, no, even though they were there. And the other thing to note is, like, most people live in their place of business, like their house is like above or behind their place of business. So like, there were people there, but they were like, no. And I think it's because like people were like, it's Tet, I'm not working. So finally, the third place we went to, there was a guy, and in like 10 minutes, he put a patch in, charged us like $2.15, and we were good again. Our last stop of the trip was a town called Mũi Né. It's a beach town again. We stayed at this cute place called Joe's Cafe. It was a really big restaurant / bar in the front, and then there were rooms in the back. And every night they have live music, including the 2 nights we were there. Even during COVID, even during Tet, they have live music. And it was pretty full both nights. What was funny is we took a walk, and while we were walking, we heard our names being called. And it turned out to be the couple that we just met in Cam Ranh. They were sitting at like a Mexican restaurant, and so we joined them for some beers, and then later dinner. Spent like kind of the whole evening with them, which was really nice. And then we had decided to stay an extra day in Mũi Né because we didn't want our trip to end. The next day we went to a place called R&D Wine Castle, which is kind of like a weird fake vineyard, maybe. They have some vines there, but I don't know what they do with the grapes. And they said that they don't grow wine, or they don't make wine. They have like old used wine making facilities, but they don't use it. But they have a lot of wine just in casks and actually they have a lot of bottles of wine, and they have a lot of casks without wine in them. It's just some sort of weird tourist attraction about wine. I guess wine is kind of so foreign, it just seems like an oddity. But there were people there, and it was kind of informative. They had this one room, which was a big diorama about the history of winemaking from like early times to present day, and like had like, you know, little people stomping grapes and then like putting them in giant manufacturing vats and stuff like that. It's cool. This trip was just really great because we traveled in one country. We got to see mountains and deserts, jungles, the seaside, tiny villages to big cities, and all in like one small trip. It was really pretty magical. We met some people. Plus, because it was COVID and because it was Tet, many places that like during normal times would be full of people, like overcrowded, it was just like empty, which is good and bad because honestly, sometimes people make things feel lively, and it was a little difficult when we'd be like at a giant hotel and there'd be no one there, and just felt kind of like devoid of energy. But you know, it's a unique time, and I guess you could either feel bad about it or you could kind of embrace it, and that's kind of what we did. We had a good time. So I really want to thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and you'll see me next time. As most of you know, I'm normally an artist. I make art and I share my videos of my art making process. But I live in a foreign country and I travel quite a bit. So when I do, I like to make videos about my travels. So if you like that content, please give me a subscribe, and hope to see you next time.